Tensions are reaching a critical point in Rivers State ahead of the local government elections tomorrow, especially as the police say they have officially withdrawn from providing security. This move follows a court order that has left many anxious about what lies ahead. With just hours before the elections, the withdrawal of security forces has sparked widespread concerns about potential violence and the safety of both voters and electoral staff. Questions arise about whether the elections will proceed as planned, and if they do, how secure the process will be. To help unpack the developments in Rivers State, I'm being joined by Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Oba Maduabuchi. He is joining us remotely from Makurdi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure.
Right. Okay, so you've been following developments in Rivers State. It's been reported that uniformed men attempted to take away election materials from the electoral office, ostensibly in order to stop the elections scheduled for tomorrow. As a lawyer, what do you see as the role of security officers in the political crisis that is brewing in that state?
Very much. Let me start by saying that the police has absolutely nothing to do with the electoral process. They are not electoral officers. They are not meant to announce results. They are not meant to issue ballot paper. I don't know what they are supposed to do. I've never seen in any civilized world where elections are being held and you see policemen carrying guns walking up and down. That is the first hallmark of timidity and primitivity on our part. Why can't we hold elections without policemen? I don't know why anybody can explain to me what a policeman in an election, on an election day. It is only unacceptable, still not politically mature. So if the police decide to stay away, I would only ask people who want to vote to go out there and vote, because security agencies, they'll be required only when it gets violent. But if you go there and vote and go away, vote and go away, what role does the police have to play? The police under our law, I've not seen any part of our law, Constitution, Electoral Act, State Electoral Act, or any other act that says there must be a policeman on ground before he can validly hold the election. No. The only thing the Electoral Act says is if there are elections and policemen and the other security agencies, if you declare the result, you give them a copy. If they like, even if they don't come, that is the end of it. It does not matter. It does not affect the result. Nobody has ever challenged an election because policemen were not there. So the police has nothing to do with whether election is valid or not. The presence of police comes after an election or before the voting, if there are pockets of violence here and there. But insofar as the election is concerned, the police has nothing to do with it.
Well, the point is that elections in the past in this country have been violent, not in all cases. So that's one of the reasons probably why there are policemen out in the streets to provide protection. Now the police has said that in line with a court order, they will not be out there tomorrow in Rivers to provide protection. So how do you see the situation playing out because of all the tensions we already see in that state?
Well, it's an unfortunate development, very, very unfortunate, because what is an issue is a local government election. I don't know what the Federal High Court has to do with that. It is not part of the enumerated jurisdiction that it has pursuant to Section 2411 of the Nigerian Constitution. I don't know what the federal government, the federal high court has to do with an election in a state. That is a state affair. So for the high court to struggle into that area, I think it's taking this thing a little bit too far. What is the business of the federal high court in a state affair? When it leaves federal affair and goes to state affair, then it has not done anything. Because like we say, once you don't have jurisdiction, once you have without jurisdiction, you've wasted everybody's time. So the federal high court making such an order is an aberration. I don't think the judge should have made such an order. He should have declined jurisdiction quickly. Because in deciding whether you have jurisdiction or not, the first thing you ask yourself as a judge is, what is the main issue in this matter before me? Is it policemen? No. What is it about? It is election in Rivers State. Now, if it's about election in Rivers State, do I have jurisdiction over election in Rivers State? The answer is straight, no. Then the judge should give them back the file and say, go to Rivers State. Go to the Rivers State Court. So the judge making that order in the first place is, I think that is where the confusion started. Because if the judge had done the proper thing and said, I do not have jurisdiction, go to Rivers State, we will not have all this confusion that is now plaguing us all over. So the problem is caused by unnecessary interference by the federal high court in the local affairs of Rivers State.
Right. So Rivers is a state that is known to have militants. If there's a bit of vacuum tomorrow and in the future, do you think that militants or non-state armed actors might take advantage of the situation as it is?
You see, I won't be surprised if tomorrow you see that it is militants that are providing security. I will not be surprised in the least. Because the people of Rivers State are in support of holding the election. And most of the former militants, I call them former militants, even though we know they are all still militants. But most of them seem to be in support of holding of the election. And if there will be violence, they are still the people that will propagate the violence. So all said and done, if there is violence, it of course will affect the credibility of the election. It will obviously affect it because you cannot vote under a state of war when there is that level of tangible tension. I remember one judgment where the Supreme Court, I think it's still the same river, said before, during, and after the election, the state was, the place was like a state of war. So I don't know why Rivers is beginning to, it's now their permanent toga, that they are an impossible state. If tomorrow people come out to vote and they are attacked by people who are by people who are opposed to the election, well, it will be a very, very unfortunate thing. And if people will die, those who sent them will be at home. Their children will be abroad. And one or two people who have been given some money will bring other people who will come and they will fight and they will be killed. And human rights lawyers will start shouting, this one happened, that one happened. But in essence, it is unnecessary interference by a court in a state affair that has precipitated this tense situation. And I'm not happy about it.
Let's look at some of the legal issues. There are different court injunctions.
Yes.
One says the elections must hold. The other says, no, the election shouldn't hold. You know, what are the legal implications for tomorrow as a lawyer? Can you explain to our viewers?
Now, the first thing is which order was first made. If the order of the Rivers State High Court, I think it's Justice Igwe, I think it's Igwe. If he made his order first, then his order overrides every other order. Because another court of coordinate jurisdiction cannot come and make an order that will run contrary to an order already made by another court. So it is Igwe order that must prevail. the order of Justice Lifu that was given on Monday came years after Igwe had already said, go and hold the elections. And we know that in the Federal High Court, if you file a case in the Federal High Court, the first thing you do is swear to an oath of non-multiplicity of action. This action is not being heard elsewhere. So if those people didn't swear to that oath, then the action becomes incompetent because the condition precedent to the propriety of the action has not been met. You must swear to an oath in the Federal High Court that there is no other suit regarding this issue pending anywhere. That was introduced when people started giving all sorts of orders regarding the same River State. When KB was making an order in respect of River State, Calabar answered. Then Abuja deferred. I think Jigawa also. So they said, no, you have to swear an oath that this case is not pending elsewhere. Now we have come back to the same drama because it's unnecessary dramatization. A suit is pending in Port Harcourt, rightly or wrongly. And we still take the same issue to Abuja. This time, Federal High Court that has a enumerated jurisdiction that has been specifically told by the Constitution, you do not do any other thing outside these issues. And yet, it went ahead and started delving into a local government election in Rivers State. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't honestly understand. In
your view, is the judiciary as it is contributing to this escalation and actually playing a dangerous role in our democracy?
That's why I told you that if the Federal High Court had not gone into it, there would have been no tension. They would have done the election just like other people. The Supreme Court says hold the election within 90 days. That is 3 months. And a High Court is saying don't hold the election. A state is trying to obey the Supreme Court order. Hold election. And if there's any local government that does not have a democratically elected local government system, stop giving them allocations. And this is the order of the Supreme Court. And the High Court is saying, no, don't obey the Supreme Court. Obey me. How do you survive? How do you survive if we allow things like that? Well, I just hope that the new CJN will sit up, because the last time we had real discipline in the judiciary was when Aloma Mukhtar was CJ. I think now that another lady is another man in skirt, because we don't have ladies in the judiciary. Another man in skirt has come up again. I hope they will return to the Aloma Mukhtar era. But this is very, very regrettable. The cheapest thing you get now is an injunction. It is even cheaper now than policemen. We used to think that police were cheap, but now it looks like it is an injunction. When you know who to go to, they will give you the order. So, and it's some of us who have spent more than half of our lives in this profession.
Right.
Well, I find it regrettable.
Okay, you are a senior advocate of Nigeria, so you've seen a lot and you've just pointed that out. What are the possible outcomes you see in this whole scenario?
Well, the thing is, there are one or two possibilities. One, after all this, some people, because there will be a result declared tomorrow. If you like, let it be 4 people that come out. By 10 o'clock, there will be results declared. That's how they hold local government elections in Nigeria. There are some people who go to court and say, look, there was no election. They will say, what happened? There was a court order that you shouldn't hold the election. That one will go to the Supreme Court. Another person will say, no, there was an election. No, the State High Court gave us order to do election. That one will go to the... But the important thing to me is that the election should be allowed to hold. That election ought to hold. I don't see why that election should not hold. And if it holds and somebody challenges it, I hope that a judge will be brave enough to say, my friend, I will obey the Supreme Court. I will not obey a high court. The Supreme Court cannot say hold elections, and the high court says don't hold elections. It does not happen.
In your legal opinion and from your experience, what would you say are the steps that should be taken in general to resolve the crisis in Rivers?
It is not only in Rivers, all over. I've said it on Arise before. I think our governors have too much powers. The way they control state independent electoral commissions. If the president were to control INEC like that, all of us would have relocated to Chad. Honestly. So I'm happy, and I've said it before on Arise again, that this is the first time we have an Attorney General appointed from the courts, not from political arena. Lateef Fagbemi was handling the election petition of the president before he was made Attorney General. So he was a court person. And you are seeing it now. There is a bill in the National Assembly seeking to streamline how you hold elections in the states. And once that bill is passed, and I'm calling on the Senate President and the Speaker, let them hurry things up. Because we need it. Otherwise, this thing will continue. We cannot continue like this. There has to be, we have to streamline how you hold elections. Not today. The most embarrassing one is, some people say you stay for 2 years. The other one, they will say 3 years. The governor decides when to dissolve. The governor dissolves, like there was a state, they said their tenure will end on 27th in October, 7th October, and it's fixed the election in November. So who runs the state between the expiration and the date of the election? Right. These are all aberrations. It should be seamless, just as governors are seamless, president is seamless, a chairman ought to be seamless. But the governors don't like it. They want to hold firm to local governments, use them as they like, use their money as they like, and pick who is chairman and all that and all that. So the first thing to do is to quickly pass that law that will streamline the local government system. So that everybody, from the day you want to run an election, you know what the laws are, you know what the rules are, you know what the guidelines are. So, and you won't be operating under the whims and caprices of a governor. Like in this one, whatever you like, do, there will be an election announced tomorrow. And obviously, the APP will win all of them.
Okay.
So tell me one state where one seat has gone to any other party, excepting, if not the governor's party.
Okay. Oba Maduabuchi, SAN, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
It's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure.